Go on now. Go on. Rouse. Rouse, 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 rouse. Good morning. This is Bill from Curious Cars and sometimes Auto House of Naples, but not today, as I'm back in Penelope's shop, if you remember her from that Peugeot. And I've got today... Today I've got this truck. I'm sorry. You remember Penelope. Okay, so Penelope, has a very nice shop. She's connected with Curious Cars in I won't say an intimate way because Penelope isn't her real name, but she's made it in the world of business through the help of promoting a vaginal hygiene spray, a feminine hygiene spray called Sprunt. It's worked very, very well for her, and it has created quite a little empire here. So occasionally I do one of the Penelope cars, and I've also bought a few cars for Penelope, as I'm traveling around looking at stuff. She sees things she wants, as any woman does, and once she sees them, she has to have them, so we buy them, and here they are. But anyway, that's the brief story of Penelope, and here I am today in her shop to do this truck. This is a 1955 Ford F100. Ostensibly, that's what this is. By the way, today is December the 7th, 2021. It's a Tuesday, a date that will live in infamy. It's, of course, Pearl Harbor Day, and I hope more people start to remember that again. It's not really something that makes the news much anymore, which is a shame, because, of course, that was such a seminal date in American history. That's, of course, when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor. Okay, so the Japanese, whatever. Somebody bombed it, and it was all bad, and it started our involvement for real in World War II, and, of course, that eventually led to the defeat of tyranny. And as a result, here we are today in Penelope's shop enjoying our freedom. So I have this 55 Ford F100. I mean, there's some debate as to what this thing actually is. I mean, it's obviously a rat rod of sorts. There's no doubt about that. It's a Restomod of sorts. But it's not really either at the same time. And if you remember, we talked about Restomods in that video on the 34 Ford and the 39 Ford we had recently. I also went into rat rods and hot rodding in general and that sort of thing. So I'll do a link to that video. But more or less, look, a Restomod is basically a modern drivetrain or modern running gear underneath a classic car that makes it more... you can make it more sporty, you can make it more drivable, you can make it more anything, but you make it more than it was when it was new. And that is what a Restomod is all about. And this thing technically is a Restomod. A rat rod is almost, sort of an anger or a rebellion against, traditional hot rodding or what has become of traditional hot rodding, where everything's uber expensive, uber polished, fantastic 83 coats of hand-rubbed lacquer and super polished machined aluminum and this, that, and the other, and very expensive stuff. Rat Rod sort of, they returned that to the common guy. So, he would take something and turn it into a hot rod using ingenuity instead of money and using spare parts and all sorts of interesting crap that he could assemble. So there's very much a lot of rat rod in this thing as well. So, but anyway, we'll get into it as we go. So look, I'm exhausted. I mean, I've had it's been like 5 weeks of nonstop crap. I mean, 3 different auctions. We had Turkey Trot. I've been on the run. I got like 30 cars. I'm overwhelmed. I'm miserable. I've been drunk for most of it, and it's all sort of catching up with me. So, bear with me today. I'm deep into the coronavirus whiskey, deep into it. One of the snowflakes at work, I walked in an office yesterday, and she starts sneezing. I mean, the second that I walk in, it was friggin' revolting and unacceptable, so I fled the office, but I feel a bit stuffed up this morning, which means that I've probably got a little taste of whatever the hell hell it is she had. So, you know, they're all out there together with their Play-Doh and their safe spaces and their coloring books. It's, you know, anytime you have kids involved with anything, it's like a big typhoid den, and it's better to just be avoided. And that's why I've always practiced steadfastly birth control. But it is what it is. You know, it's not cold enough. It's a decent morning. It's probably in the mid-60s somewhere, but far from what would be acceptable. And if you look out there, there's my truck, which they borrowed yesterday because people can smoke cigarettes in it. But it's covered with condensation, which shows you just how humid the damn thing is. And it's really not cool for what we have going on this time of year. I want it to be 20 degrees cooler. I don't want to be wearing shorts like I am right now. And the weather just absolutely sucks, the giant one. So it's no fun at all. Back to this truck, and I've been laboring over this, how to approach this video. I mean, when I bought the truck at an auction over the weekend. I saw it there. I didn't buy it for me. One of Penelope's friends saw it and thought, oh my God, that's something I have to have. So I was there and I was on site, so I bid on it and won it. And I thought, as long as I'm involved with the friggin' thing, I'm going to do a video on it for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason, of course, is because it says Sanford and Son on the side, and it is an F100, not unlike the truck that was used in that television show. And frankly, I find it very cool and kind of fun, and driving it home I did enjoy. As a guy who hates attention, hates it with a passion, I did enjoy some of the attention that I got in this truck. And yes, we'll get into this bizarre, strange little thing in the bed later. So there's that. And but otherwise, you know, what do you do? Do you get into... Okay, look, we're going to start with this. So it is a 1955 F100. The actual Sanford and Sons truck was a 51. And there are a few differences which, you know, Ford people will care about and I don't. For, you know, all intents and purposes, the thing is basically the same as the Sanford and Sons truck. So you got that going for you. It does use a modern Dodge Ram frame underneath. You see the thing sitting pretty damn low. It's actually the body of an F100 that's been placed on this early 2000s Dodge Ram with a 318 and a 5-speed, and we'll get into all that as we go, but that is pure Restomod stuff, even if it's done in the style of a rat rod. I know this gets all very confusing, but there's a lot of little crafty paintwork and tweaking that went into it to bring it all together to make it look the way that it does now. Very quickly, let me get into the show, because you really can't do this video without talking about Sanford and Son. And the show was epic. I mean, it was a little bit early for me, so I didn't really watch it much. And my parents, who were very snooty, or at least my mother was back then, she, you know, would have found it too distasteful to have on reruns. So I was just not exposed to it. Somehow Benny Hill passed muster, but Sanford and Sons was just not something we watched. So, you know, and back in those days, what did you have, like 3-4 channels? I mean, that was all you could watch. I mean, that's why these shows were so enormous in a way that stuff really doesn't get to be today. But in any case, you know, on PBS, Benny Hill was fine. And I mean, I remember seeing, you know, hoots and hoo-has at, you know, the age of 6, and, you know, thinking, this is friggin' fantastic, give me more Benny Hill. It was only later on that I learned more about the show. But anyway, Sanford and Son was created by a guy named Norman Lear, who's apparently still around. He's like 120 years old. Well, he's 99, but man, is he old. And he created some of the most seminal television shows in American history. Probably the most famous being All in the Family, with, of course, Archie Bunker as this old, you know, racist, cantankerous cat. And that was a... what the hell was that? That was a CBS. Was that a CBS show? I think that was a CBS show. And Sanford and Son was meant to compete with that. It was NBC's answer to All in the Family, and, you know, it was sort of the reverse. So you had a black guy, you had Fred Sanford as this cantankerous old racist bastard, and he was doing his fun stuff at the time. But anyway, it was like All in the Family, by the way, it was stolen from a British sitcom called Steptoe and Son, which was, you know, about junkyard father and son. It ran for many more years than this one did. And Norman Lear took the idea made a show out of it, and it worked actually pretty well in the United States. You had a guy named Red Fox, and I mean, people my age will know who Red Fox is, or older. Snowflakes, they wouldn't have a friggin' clue. They would have no idea. But he, of course, was a very edgy stand-up comedian at the time. They toned him down to be the lead in this show. And he had a son, which was, with him in the show, and they were their relationship was the basis for it. All in the Family actually was also based on a British sitcom called Till Death Do Us Part. So, Norman Lear, he really stood by that good artist borrow, great artist steal crap. But Red Fox, he played Fred Sanford. The show is based around his relationship with his son Lamont, a guy named Demond Wilson. Demond, I'm not good with pronunciations, but anyway. And it was basically Fred's cantankerous, miserable, crappy attitude and his get-rich-quick schemes that sort of centered the show. And it was all about those and how they always ended up in disaster. Interestingly enough, Fox's real name was John Elroy Sanford, and the character Fred Sanford was named after his real-life brother. So that's something I didn't know until I started researching this last night. And there it is. But look, this isn't a show review, so I'm not going to get into too much about television. And we're going to sort of get into what this thing's all about. And I don't know what to do. I mean, so you've got the Ford F100, this 55 model. The F-Series truck was made from 48 to current. Still going across 14 generations. One of the most successful models in all of automotive history. Makes billions of dollars for Ford. It's been like the best-selling vehicle in the United States since '77. And quite frankly, they couldn't survive without it. I mean, the F-Series is just one of the epic success stories of American automotive history. Underneath that, you've got a Dodge Ram, which is another full-size truck, of course, from Dodge and Chrysler. Has its own history, has its own success. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that, but, who gives a shit? So, no, we're probably not. Then you've got the Restomod thing, which we just talked about, using modern running gear and that sort of thing underneath a classic car to make it more drivable, which this one has in droves, by the way. It's a terrific driving vehicle. Then you got the Rat Rod thing, where you've got, and somewhere around here, I don't know where, if it's over here, I don't know. Penelope has a Rat Rod. I don't know where the hell it's at. I have no idea. That ain't it. That's the Peugeot we did. We got all kinds of crap under cover here. That's a Riviera. Over there is some kind of Ford. You got a Mazda 2200 and a Triumph and a Toyota FJ. So I don't know where the hell the Rat Rod is. Doesn't really matter. But she's got a much more traditional Rat Rod. I can't say that this is what this truck is, even though it is. So, God, anyway. And then on to the car show thing, which, of course, car shows are one of the seminal American, probably global, actually. I mean, car shows are all over the place. And, you always think about, like, these polished and spit-shined 440 Chargers and 69 Camaros and, 58 Eldorados. But there's also a segment of the car show people that's based on absolute lunacy, where they set up whole, like, real life-size dioramas with things like this, that are nostalgic or crowd pleasers or built on madness. And, to some extent, they draw more attention and more conversation than just having a really nice old classic car. So we could get into the whole car show lunacy thing. And then we got what? We got 1955, which was a pretty fascinating year in the United States. You've got, probably the main thing, like for the future anyway, was the French basically got us into Vietnam. I don't know if that's true. Anyway, we hopped up our involvement in Vietnam. The French were flailing there. We wanted to stop communism from spreading into Asia, so in leapt America into the whole Vietnam thing, which of course didn't end very well. You had the USS Nautilus, that was the first nuclear-powered submarine. That got underway for the first time. It debuted and actually used that thing up to like 1990 or something. It turned out to be a pretty, again, like the old shit's always built a bit better in some ways, so that thing lasted a long time. Jonas Salk came out with his polio vaccine. He had it before, but it was declared safe and usable in 55 and started being used all over the place. Vaccines are going now. Oh, God. Anyway, that worked out really well. So it kind of negated this illness that had been quite common and debilitating to a lot of people. And after the vaccine came out, it all but basically vanished. Disneyland opened, and I mean, this was a big year, 55. In California, you had Disneyland, you had the Mickey Mouse Club on TV with, what's her name, Annette Funicello, or whatever the hell her name is. And Candace Bergen got turned down. I guess she showed it. She was a kid, and they, you suck. And they sent her away. And then she went on to do better things. But that was a big deal, of course. But all the rest of them ended up in misery. I'm sure they all turned to drugs and alcohol. All the original Mouseketeers, wound up prostituting themselves on the street for the most part. In Le Mans, there was a giant crash in 1955. Killed like 83 people and the driver. French guy who was driving a Mercedes 300 SLR. Some Jaguar went over to pit. Somebody pulled out into the main lane. The 300 SLR is doing 200. It runs up the back of this thing. Might have been an Aston Martin, and launches itself into the grandstand, disintegrates. Engine blocks, transmissions start ripping through the crowd. It just killed a ton of people and ended Mercedes' involvement in motorsports until 87. So it was a pretty damn big deal. You had Rosa Parks on the bus standing up for decency by staying seated in Montgomery, Alabama. God bless her. That was a really brave thing to do. On TV, you had Gunsmoke and the $64,000 question, which is actually worth $660,000 today because of inflation. The average cost of a house in 55 was like 10 grand, and a car was under 2 grand, and the annual inflation rate was well under 1%. So they were really living it up in 1955. Also, the Guinness Book of World Records debuted, and I'm hoping they'll soon add a entry for the longest car review. So where the hell to go? I don't know. We got all the, I guess I've done 55. I'm not going to do Restomod. I'm not really going to do Rat Rod. I'm not going to do the F100. We've done an F-Series thing before. I had an old Eddie Bauer truck, which I'll post in the bottom of the comments or in the description section. So I tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to pause for 2 minutes, get my shit together, and then we're just going to look around this truck, see what the hell people did to it, and take it for a drive. And this is going to be a nice, short, proper video, and then we'll move on to something else. So bear with me, give me a minute, and we'll come right back. All right, so before we get this going, Penelope told me I could do something here, which would be kind of fun. Not take the little forklift on a joyride, which actually would be more fun than anything. But apparently there's some kind of stupid Google setup here. Okay, so okay, Google, turn off the lights.
All right, turning off 6 lights.
I love it. This is, I know this is probably standard shit in every house in America right now, but I'm excited that I have a digital toaster, and I did get some kind of a fridge with Wi-Fi, but I never connected it. So, I mean, what the fuck? Why does my fridge need to be connected to Wi-Fi? It's going to tell me when the milk's expired. Okay, Google, turn lights on. Oh, this is just creepy as shit. All right, it's like, that stupid thing from 2001. It's probably going to kill us. Up there, we got a Datsun Roadster. There's that Peugeot. We got some kind of speedster replica. Here's a long bed C10 with 24-inch steelies on it and some sort of patina on the side. It's just all very fascinating. Take a little quick walk outside. Let's see what's going on around this place. See what Penelope's put together with her feminine hygiene spray. There's Old Faithful. So yeah, I let him borrow it yesterday to go pick up this 560 SL, which I don't know, we'll have a look at that later. What do we got over there? We got the race trailer for Miatas, which he went once. So he bought this thing. It's like, I don't know what he spent on. Excuse me, Penelope spent on it to go spec Miata racing. I see a couple AC units on the roof. I think that, I think you'd have to spend $5, $6, $7 grand to get a trailer like that to go spec Miata racing. And you attend like 3 races. So that tells you something. Got some kind of a weird turbo Miata over there. It looks like an NA, another 560, and then this 23,000 mile Toyota Corolla we found somewhere in Alabama. So that's something that's going to be coming up. This is something I found in Georgia. Actually, I take it back. Penelope found it online, and I went and looked at it like a dutiful servant, and I bought it immediately because where the hell are you going to find a mid-70s Datsun tow truck? And it's a real tow truck, this thing. I mean, it's called a Little Hustler or something. I guess it was like the answer to the gas crisis. And it was just wasting away in the backyard of an old car dealership. Unfortunately, the guy who had it was proud beyond words of all the shit that he had. This thing cost a fortune for being in the condition it's in, but how do you turn it down? So I bought it instantly using Penelope's money, and here it is right now. This car I bought the other day at the auction. It's 68 Corvette, black 4-speed, and I was beyond drunk when I bought it. Thank God it turned out to be a half-decent car, but it could have been an absolute basket case considering my condition at the time. So, and apparently Penelope popped one of those Eagle GTs while bringing it on the trailer, and they cost like $450 each now to get an Eagle GT repro tire. So, yeah, she's kind of pissed about that, but that's her own fault. Some kind of a crazy 427 hood on it, but it ain't. But anyway, there it is, and that's the race car trail. And look, nobody wants to hear about all this crap. We'll do a tour of Penelope's later. Let's get back into this thing. All right, so let's have a look. So, look, here's the thing with rat rods, which this thing has in droves. It is definitely an old, rusty, shitty truck that somebody found. But it's just not good enough to do it that way. You have to sort of butter it up. Like, I don't think this thing was burgundy or red or whatever, that primer color that it is right now. I think that got sprayed. And you have to spray it in such a way that it preserves and enhances the patina of the truck. And that's a real art form that not every painter could pull off. Like that grill that it has there is white. I don't think that ever had any red overspray on it. I think that was done during the paint. You see it's got some kind of really funky, fancy projection headlamps, the kind of shit that I hate, but I think it works all right on that. You see the shocking amount of rust on the edge of the hood. I mean, this is what a rat rod is all about. It's just not supposed to be pretty. It reminds me a little bit of the way Nirvana came along right after Dire Straits did that album, that Brothers in Arms album, where it's, the most hyper-technical, perfect sound quality on earth. A year later, Nirvana's there turning their Marshall tube amp up to 11 with more distortion than can be believed. And that to me is what rat rods did to the hot rod movement, and I kind of dig it. I absolutely love the Sanford and Son script on the side. I think that was brilliant, and I think it definitely makes it sort of a car show, drive down the street hero. Also looks like they bought new badges and such. I mean, these are all gleaming looking reproductions. The mirrors are quite clean. I think it had an antenna that fell off, which is weird because I can't find a radio. You've got steel wheels sitting very, very low. The whole I see ladder bars behind it, which is interesting, and they look vintage. And these sort of baby moon caps over the lugs on it. Of course, it's a step side, as everything was from this vintage. And maybe that's not true. I don't know shit about trucks, but they all seem like step sides to me. You've got these long running boards. You see the way that the bed is quite high. This wood bed on the bottom is quite high, and I think that's because they had to drape this Ford body over that Ram frame to make it as low as it is. When this thing was new, those wheels were not tucked. up into the fenders that way. It's set much, much higher. Being very low is, of course, a hot rod thing. We also have Red Fox, Fred Sanford, sitting in this weird vintage old, toy fire truck, which is just fascinating. It appears to have some sort of hot rod go-kart wheels in the back and tires and little race wheels from a go-kart. DP, which is some exercise equipment thing I haven't seen in 100 years. It has those for the front wheels, and we connected a battery to this thing this morning to see what it would do, and it only does this. There's like 9 switches in there, and only one of them seems to do anything. It's got some kind of a little siren that goes off. Very interesting hardware on the tailgate, which looks original. You've got more modern Ford LED tail lamps there with it, with the license plate light. This thing's chained to the truck just to prevent, whatever, theft. Back window has a bunch of stickers, gas monkey. I don't know what any of that shit is. I know what the Marine Corps is, but otherwise, I don't know. You see all the weird patina and rust. I mean, it's just kind of lovely and cool, and it's fun to look at. He put whoever built it, put a Marine Corps grill badge over the top of the gas cap, and it's sharp as hell, so you have to be very careful when you're undoing that. The bottom of the cab, it's all kind of rusted out. If you look behind the seats, there's styrofoam there. I don't know. I mean, I just think it's really cool to look at, and I love the way the patina's all been preserved and the way it intermingles with like new wipers, new center view mirror, new side mirrors, new headlights and all that. It's just cool. So let's have a look under the hood. And this is where you're going to see what really happened here. Oh God. I have to hold that up so it doesn't come down. All right, there it is. It likes to come down on me. There is a 318 Chrysler engine, a V8, probably one of their better V8s of all time, frankly. This is the most modern version, or one of the more modern versions. It's still fuel injected. They put a Cobra air cleaner on the top of it, presumably as a tip of the hat to Ford. And you can see it's just sort of jammed in. I mean, you've got the battery there. You've got all the ABS controllers, proportioning valves, engine computers, just sort of tacked on, bolted. You've got, cheesy looking connectors with the wiring harness out of the Dodge. And this is exactly what rat rod kind of stuff is. You don't have to go overboard making everything spit polished and lovely. You just make it work, And you've got this, it looks like a very small radiator. I'd have preferred to see a bigger one in there, but it's good enough. It's got phony AC, which fascinating. When I saw the truck for the first time, I thought, wow, it's air conditioned. Well, it's not. I mean, you've got the compressor there, you've got the lines going to this evaporator, and then you've got absolutely nothing behind it. It's all been cut off and blocked. So, I guess one could rejuvenate the AC, but it's not there as advertised. But anyway, there you see the modern drivetrain under the hood of this thing, and of course that's riding on the Dodge Ram frame with the Dodge Ram brakes and the Dodge Ram suspension and the Dodge Ram manual 5-speed gearbox, which just makes this thing a terrific driver. Really, really does. And you really can't close the hood without getting rust on yourself. In fact, it's kind of a 3-part step. I like to push this down first before I come back and give this a little bit of a slam. You have the running boards. I mean, the thing is just cool, and man, does it drive nice. And of course, you got red there looking at you. And it's a custom cab. So, I mean, all this stuff is good. You could tell that this is all either really nice original that came from a different truck or reproduction stuff that, works great. All right, and here's more rat rod stuff. In fact, it seems like this weird dark brown or alligator skin is the official material of rat rods. You always see it, but you've got you got a screw just in there holding it on. I mean, it's all just sort of half together, and I think that's really cool stuff. The seats have been redone with it. They look very nice enough. You got this big creepy looking aluminum shifter. You got a weird looking cheap but neat steering wheel where the horn doesn't seem to work very well. This push button thing, I have no idea. You got the original pedals down there. I don't think these are Dodge pedals. It's definitely a Dodge Ram engine setup, but I don't think the pedal pads are what it came with. And of course, when I bought the truck, I thought it had the complete Sanford and Son set, but it turns out that's just an empty box. So yeah, guy got me on that one. Yeah, look, I guess that's it. Let's hop in and take the thing for a spin, see what we got. So, very, very comfortable. You can see the original gauges have been removed, and there are Dodge Ram gauges that they've kind of just, you know, bolted in behind it, and they work fine. This big lever here works the air vent, still has the original heater box over there, which isn't working, which is fine. You find things like this cigarette outlet is just taped and ready if you need it. I mean, it's just kind of cool the way this stuff is done, and it must be nice to not have to worry too much about the polish of it. You know, you get the sun visors done, you bolt them up, great. You get the mirror done, you bolt it up, great. But you don't have to worry about, you know, scratches and dings and patina on the door panels, and you know, you're just driving the thing for fun. So anyway, let's give this a go. Love it. All right, so we've got the airbag light on, we've got the brake light on, but we do have oil pressure, we've got fuel, we've got volts, and we've got temperature. And it appears we've got about 238,000 miles on the clock. You got some block offs here, the choke, which obviously isn't doing anything, wipers. These headlights don't do shit. It's this headlights over here which are working things. And yeah, there it all is. There's also the original ashtray, which works great. And we got a glove box with some other crap in there, so. I was going to open up that little vent window yesterday, and then the whole thing fell off in my hand. So they really did take this rat rod thing to the extreme. Got a nice growl out of the pipes, too. I wonder if it'd be rude to do a little burnout in Penelope's driveway. Yeah, probably. And I tell you, man, this thing, it's lanky and loose and obviously needs some kind of bushings, but it shifts nice. Haven't missed a gear in it yet. Also, the brakes started locking up on me a little bit yesterday. I think the proportioning valve has gone south, or maybe it just needs a flush. Who knows? Let's get out in front of this guy. Hell with it. Therein is the fun part. I mean, you're in this decrepit looking old Ford truck and you can haul ass and it's absolutely fine. I've got power steering, I've got power brakes. You know, the thing drives like an '02 Dodge Ram. It really does. Whatever year it is, I don't actually know. You know, I'm downshifting, it's gurgling. I was going like 50, 60 miles an hour today. It's got all kinds of pep. The steering is nice and responsive, and that is the joy of the Restomod thing, where, you know, I mean, if this was a true 55 in terms of suspension and steering and shifting and all that sort of stuff, it would drive like shit. It would feel horrible. Honestly, this feels like a thing you could take on the interstate and have a nice drive. Let's try not to scare this poor woman out doing her thing in the morning. Seems like a nice lady. All the inners. That's why I'm not going out on the road. Look at all the traffic out there. All these animals up to. So you're hauling ass in your Sanford truck. I absolutely love it. And I have had a lot of fun driving this thing around. So, look, anyway, there it is. I'm obviously not going to be doing an interstate run because, you know, I'm in a different spot and the interstate's behind me. And even so, it just feels a little weird to be doing that. Man, I've got like 25, 30 cars in stock. We got so much fun stuff coming up. I just got to get it ready. There's going to be a bunch of videos in succession. I know I'm getting, yeah, it's been like one a week for the last couple weeks, if that. That's going to change. There's going to be a lot more videos happening. and we'll have some fun with that. So, look, anyway, if no, this isn't for sale. This was bought for a guy. So, yeah, sorry about that. I don't know. I mean, I guess if you want to say something, maybe I'll post it. It would shock you what it cost to buy it. Turns out a lot of people at the auction had an interest. Give that another go. I love it. It's giving me an upshift light, like on a 928. But anyway, look, thanks for having a look today. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you with the next one. I'm going to try to jam out another one this week at least. So take care, good day, and thanks for having a look. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for commenting. And again, thank you so much for keeping me going, because everything else just absolutely sucks these days, but I'm really enjoying this kind of stuff on YouTube. So thank you for giving me something to keep going for. We'll see you with the next one. Take care.